Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, I'm Dean with Old English Outfitters, and today we are going to be discussing the new military service weapon, the Sig Sauer M17 320. So, as many of you know, the military recently selected a new service pistol to replace the M9. That's pretty common knowledge at this point, so we're not going to get too far into it. We had a bunch of front runners. You still had Beretta in the mix. You had, I believe, HK was in there. And then the two big ones were Glock and Sig Sauer. Now, Sig Sauer eventually won out the contract. Now, we're not going to get into the political antics and the who did what and who screwed who, because Sig Sauer just massively underbid everyone, so they won the contract. This video is not about that or any controversy. It's just a review of this new pistol. It's a different spin on the 320, so we're going to go over the features and the differences and then get into our overall opinion because we were able to put a couple hundred rounds through it today. So we got a decent feel for the gun and at least how it shoots. And then we'll continue to test it and see about reliability. So just to start off, this one has a 4.7-inch barrel, so it's a full-size gun by every standard. It also comes with a manual thumb safety, which is different from the standard 320. They have the, I believe this is the either the full size or the medium grip. It will take the full 17-round magazines and fit flush, so I believe it is the full-size grip. But the entire system is modular, so if you look at the serial plate here, you see it's a slightly wider cutout than the 320 for the military designation because you have this different barcode here, or scanner thing that they would use to keep track of their pistols. But it is a full-size frame. You get a little bit of the barrel sticking out because this is the full-size slide. So this is meant to be a full-size service weapon, as clearly denoted by the name. The other thing you'll see here is a thinner trigger. So a little while back you had the Sig Sauers had some problems. If you dropped them at just the right angle, they would go off without your consent, obviously. That was a big problem. So they changed that. The trigger used to be a lot thicker, and that had to do kind of with what was the problem. The trigger had enough weight that the gravity and kind of the force of it being dropped would make it sweep back. So they made it a lot thinner, and they have since fixed that problem. So good on Sig. Not good on Sig for releasing a gun that's not drop safe, but good on them for fixing it. Then the last feature that differentiates it from the standard 320 is this top plate, and that's arguably the biggest feature. So within this top plate, it's actually mounted with screws up through the bottom of the slide. This top plate is mounted to the top of the, not the frame, the slide here. These sights are completely fixed. They are part of the top plate, so you cannot switch out your rear sight. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to offer different plates. This standard is cut for the Loophole Delta Point Pro. That is the only RMR, red dot that this pistol will take. And the plate covers it as such. Now, I don't know if they're going to release different plates that will take different iron sights or one that just has a rear dovetail, which would be great, because that's one of the complaints I have about this is that the rear sight is completely fixed. But this will only take the Loophole Delta Point Pro. I believe that was part of the military contract that Loophole has some contract with the military, so they wanted them to have the slot, or whether that's a deal they made with Sig. I'm not entirely sure. I know the military also uses Trigicons, so that was Sig's decision, and for whatever reason they did it that way. I'm not a huge fan of the Loophole Delta Point, but that's just me. A lot of people love it because it has a pretty big window and you get a good picture on your dot, a little bit easier to pick up. Not my decision to make, it's a matter of opinion. And then finally, under that plate, within the slide cutout for the Loophole, there is a loaded chamber indicator, which was another requirement by the military contract there. So this will rise up here. You can see that big dot, not a big dot, but that square right there. That will stick straight up when you have something in the chamber. So we're good there on the loaded chamber indicator. Other than that, you do have Siglite night sights. Siglite night sights are okay. They're not too expensive, and they do put them on a lot of their guns, so it's nice you don't have to pay for them. They are, however, not as bright as some of the other night sights available on the market. I have a set of Trigicon, just standard 3 dots I've had on my Glock 19, and they're probably 7 to 9 years old, and I say they glow about as bright as these Sigs. So they're not quite as vibrant out of the box. They're still good. It's nice you don't have to pay for night sights or do that after the fact, but they are not as bright, just so you're aware. The thumb safety is another thing. Like we said, that's the military. It's a slightly different cutout in the 320 interchangeable frame. because all of these are modular. You can take the serialized plate and the firing mechanism out and just swap it into a new lower frame. The lower frames are super cheap, so if you want a medium or a small size, you can do that. The thumb safety requires a different cutout though, so you can't just put this firing module into any old 320 grip. There is a special cut under the thumb safety that allows it to actuate. The thumb safety itself is rather nice. I like it. It's in a good position for my hand. It allows me to get a really good grip onto the gun and actually apply downward pressure on the frame as opposed to riding that slide release, because especially with my Glocks, I have big gorilla paws for some reason. So I have a tendency to thumb that slide release down and just drop the slide forward, and it won't lock back on magazines. I have to really consciously kind of change my grip so I don't impede the function of my weapon. This kind of prevents that, as well as functioning as a thumb safety. So I'm not one for thumb safeties typically. I like to think of it as just a thumb indexing point because it is very low profile. It's very comfortable in its positioning. So you don't have to turn it on if you don't want to. But it's pretty nice. The actuation is smooth and easy. And because it is in such a natural position, if it is on, you just grab the gun kind of how you would, and it comes off without even really thinking about it. I mean, barely any practice, and you'll be sweeping that thing off in no time. It's very easy to manipulate into the firing position. The slide release itself is also nice. It's a little bit higher and probably farther forward than I would say a Glock. I compare everything to a Glock just because that's what I shoot a lot, and that's what a lot of people shoot a lot. So it is in a little bit better position, I think, again, to prevent that accidental depression of the slide release, and your gun will always lock back. Again, we put a couple hundred rounds through this, and every single time the slide locked back for me all the way, which it's about 50-50 for me on a Glock. Typically, I'm thumbing it down on accident. As well, the takedown lever here provides a very good indexing point for both of your thumbs. So if you just grab it on the safety and the takedown lever, you're in a very good firing position, and you have two very positive ledges to put your thumbs on. And again, not impeding the function of your weapon. So I really like that. The grip angle is a little bit more vertical than a lot of handguns today, and I like that a lot. I find it very natural to point shoot, acquire a flash sight picture, and get good hits on steel. Doing a 3-man drill, transition drills, those were all very easy to do with this gun. And I believe that in large part has to do with the grip angle. A Glock is a little bit more steep, and even if you're used to it, still if you whip out and you try to acquire a flash sight picture, sometimes you'll hit a little high on your target. You'll still get a good hit, but you'll be a little high. This is more vertical, and it's just a lot easier to point down range and get a really good sight picture. Then the final thing I want to talk about is the sights. So we mentioned them earlier, they're Sig lights. But if you look at that, you'll notice it is just a very, very broad rear sight, and that is not typical. I don't know why they left it this broad. I believe that has something to do with the indexing on the plate, and they wanted the largest amount of surface area to attach the sight to the rear plate here for the Leupold, but it's very thick. Typically, you'll have these corners will be chopped off, and you'll have a little bit more steep angle, save on weight. Now, I didn't think I'd like it. Actually, I took this gun out of the box and said, man, I hate that rear sight. But shooting it, it also helped me acquire that flash sight picture because it was just this big, black, blocky thing. Still had a really nice wide cutout in the top for me to acquire my front sight. All I had to do was whip up, and I saw that flash of black with white in the center, and I could get good center mass hits on my steel without any serious problems. So I ended up liking them, at least for today. The jury's still out. We were also able to do a little bit longer range shooting at about 25-30 yards just to see how it would hit on steel, and I didn't have any problem being accurate with it. But that's all about taking your time management. We didn't try any faster paced drills at that distance. What comes in the box? You get 2 magazines. I would have liked to have seen 3, but who wouldn't? These Sig magazines for the M17 are about $40 a pop, so it would have been nice if they included 3, but what can you do? Some people include 3, some people include 2. You also get this cool M17 patch. That's what it is. It's just a nice little free thing they give you. And then wrapped around the grip, I mean, it's just a commemorative, or sorry, not commemorative. It's just a little band that wraps around the grip in the box to say, this is the new U.S. Army pistol. I guess that's kind of cool. It's not really relevant. There are 2 versions to this gun. There is this one, which is the civilian designation. It's FDE in the frame and the slide, but the controls are all black. The commemorative version, which is exactly like the military has it, one has FDE on every piece of control. The barrel's still black, and I believe the sights and sight plate are still black, just so you're not messing with colors there. But everything else, the safety, the slide release, and the takedown lever are all FDE. And they use the same PVD coating as they do on the slide. So it's going to be the exact same kind of deep, rich brown that the slide is. You've kind of gotten my opinion of it overall as I've been talking about it. I like the gun. I'm used to a different style of firearm. I didn't mind it. The trigger pull was okay. I mean, people say it's very crisp. Kind of. I would say it's a shorter, but just as spongy striker fire trigger as everything else. I mean, it's nice to not have that trigger safety there, but I'm so used to a trigger safety, it doesn't bother me at all. It's a very nice, smooth, flat trigger. Easy to get a good kind of feel for it on your trigger finger. So the trigger was fine. The reset is okay. It's decently short. It still ends up being a 5.5 pound trigger. It's got a decently short reset, but again, it was easy to shoot. I mean, I'm so used to striker-fired pistols, and everyone shoots striker-fired pistols so much. This one is just a different version of that system. I won't say this is the best out-of-the-box trigger on the market. I think Walther takes that hands down with the PPQ trigger. But it's nice for a service pistol. It's head and shoulders above the Beretta M9 double-action trigger, so I think all our military guys are going to really like this new one. I think they're going to have a little bit easier time getting their first shot off and actually having a good hit on target as opposed to that double-action. Overall opinions, I like it. I do. We've only shot it a little bit, and we've only had it for a little bit, but so far, I liked it. It was easy to shoot fast, easy to shoot at a little bit longer distances, so I like it overall. It was reliable with the ammo we shot, that Winchester Duty ammo, just, it's not a round nose, but it's not a flat nose either. It's kind of a beveled flat nose, just 115 grain. It shot really well with all of those. The higher sight radius and bore axis the higher bore axis didn't really affect me. I thought it would. Usually I don't like SIGs because they're so much taller than a Glock or like a VP9. But it didn't bother me, honestly. It wasn't bad at all. I liked it overall. It was good to shoot. So I'm going to give it a thumbs up for right now, and then we're going to put more rounds down on the future and see what we think about it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you saw, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. I'm Dean with Old English Outfitters, and we will see you next week.